I'm Al McFarland. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarland. Glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Today, we're going to do a special representing of the recent monthly meeting of the Hawthorne Huddle. Diana Hawkins and her team at Hawthorne Huddle meet with me regularly here once a month to talk about affairs of the community. I call this governance at the neighborhood level. It's a place where, over the past 25 years now, every month, neighbors, agencies, organizations, stakeholders have convened to talk about the quality of life, the challenges and opportunities that we face here in North Minneapolis. So I'm going to play that tape in a couple of seconds. I want to start something new, though. I've been doing this on my other shows through the week, but I love what I'm doing and hope you will too. I want to begin every program or end every program with a note asking my guest or sharing with you what I'm reading. I'll share what I'm reading that I want to recommend to you, but I'll ask my guest to do the same. Why? I think it's important to generate enthusiasm about books, about reading, about learning, and understanding that books, magazines, newspapers enable us to really shape and imagine and shape the kind of world that we want. It's about information, and it's about having information that we believe is reliable, that helps us focus on what is true for us, and uh, just it's a good habit. It's good for our children to see us reading and to talk about reading and to talk about books. So I have just finished reading one part of this book called The Instructions of Ptah Hotep. Here's the book. Interesting book. It's published by an organization called Per Ankh. Per Ankh is based out of West Africa. And in the past several weeks, you've heard me talk about the writings of uh, Aikwe Arma. I've read two of his books. The one is called The Eloquence of Scribes, powerful book, wonderful book. And the second book is called Ankh Ent Shemsh. Ankh Ent Shemsh is in hieroglyphic, and it means the way of companions. I'm also reading this book by a person that I interviewed a few weeks ago. This book is called The Book of Coming Forth by Day. It's a book on the book known as the Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And Maulana Ron Karenga is the author. It's a concept of creating a African worldview and appreciation, a rediscovery of African knowledge and knowledge systems, African ways of looking at the world. And the question is, are we able to rediscover that which we knew, that which we were disconnected from? Can we reconnect to that knowledge and resume the path of innovation, of knowledge creation, knowledge building in the service of our humanity, of our people, and of humanity itself? And are there systems, processes for how men and women and families can relate that are egalitarian, that are global, and that have at their core the commitment to extend and share knowledge, both near and afar, so that other human beings can, as a matter of breathing, always be on the path of self-realization, of self-actualization. It's not a novel idea. These ideas are 4,000, 6,000 years old, but it's novel today because we're steeped in a system of hierarchy, patriarchal hierarchy of dynasty and of empire that one could say is responsible for both the good and the bad that we experience on the planet today. Good and the bad in terms of classism, in terms of racism, in terms of imperialism, in terms of scientific innovation and discovery, in terms of things that are great in the area of health and and technology, but things that are equally bad. So how do we figure out how to separate, elevate, retain, improve on the good, what we globally and universally know to be good out of what we humans have invented? And how do we, with a sense of intention, question systems and processes and relationships that disserve us, that marginalize us, that mean the few, the minority, lord over the majority, that the few hoard power and wealth and resources at the expense of the many, of the majority. Well, that's what I'm reading right now and thinking about. I want to engage you in conversations like that. But as we proceed with conversations with Al McFarland week after week or day after day, we're on 5 days a week. I'll be sharing with you books I'm reading and asking you and asking my guests to share what they are reading, what they're taking from the reading, and how do we all use the knowledge that we have, that we're acquiring, to move us towards freedom, liberation, self-actualization. Well, let me turn now to the Hawthorne Huddle program. This was last Thursday. I love being a part of the Hawthorne Huddle community. I normally host the meeting. I didn't this week because I had a conflict, but it's a great program. And as I say, I love being a part of hosting it. It's a newsman's dream. I'm a newsman, and I'm getting a chance over the course of an hour to get 4 or 5 stories under my belt just by listening and being in the room with newsmakers and community. So let me pull it up. I'm hoping that I have the audio properly set so that you can enjoy the audio properly. But let's try it and see. And if you're not hearing the audio, send me a note at Al at Insight News. Actually, I'll put another link in the StreamYard in the chat here, that if you want to join this conversation before it's over, hit me up, let me know, and we can bring you in the conversation. So here we are, I think. Let me begin this program, and I hope you'll enjoy it. So it looks like I'm not getting audio out. It's streaming. I can hear it on my set. And this unit I've got right here, for example, monitoring the program. I hear me, but I'm not hearing the program that I'm trying to send. So apologies. I'll have to do something to uh, learn how to execute what my intention is. So what I'll do is simply plan to replay this show at another date. I want to thank you for checking us out, for being a part of the Conversations with Al McFarland idea. We'd love to have you on tomorrow. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison is going to talk about the state and the county, Hennepin County's decision not to charge an officer in the shooting death of Amir Locke. You recall that Amir Locke is a young man who was asleep on a couch in the living room of an apartment building in downtown Minneapolis when the police entered with what they called a no-knock warrant. Body cam footage showed them opening the door. They had a pass key, opening the door and announcing themselves as they walked in. But within seconds, they said they identified that a person who had been under blankets on a couch in the living room had a gun, and they said pointed the gun at one of the officers, and therefore officer shot and killed Amir Locke. The story that's been reported is that two things. One, people have questioned whether the no-knock warrant was necessary, and if necessary, whether it was properly executed. The first reports from the police department suggested that they knocked loudly, announcing themselves, and then entered. The video cam suggests that they entered and then announced themselves. Whether that's an issue, I don't know. It's a concern that has caused the city to look at the whole question of no-knock warrants. And yesterday, I believe the mayor of Minneapolis announced an updated policy on the use of no-knock warrants. We'll discuss that tomorrow with Attorney General Keith Ellison. The question is whether Minneapolis is able to do something similar to what is being done and apparently effectively in St. Paul. St. Paul, as you know, led by a black mayor, Mayor Melvin Carter. Minneapolis by Jacob Fry. So people expressed concern. There were protests, some protests, and some voices raised about whether the state should have brought the charges against the officers involved in, responsible for the death of, let's face it, an innocent man. The stories around the shooting included stories that indicated the person had a permit to carry a gun. The gun was legally purchased and possessed. And the questions raised have to do with what is reasonable when a person who's asleep under a blanket hears a commotion at the door and people coming in, and it's not known by me anyway whether or not he had the gun in his hand already or reached for the gun. What people suggest the video shows is that though he had the gun, his finger was not on the trigger, it was on the barrel, wasn't in a position to fire. Be that as it may, officers may have, and obviously they say, felt their lives were at risk and took the action they took. So that discussion, and Keith Ellison described why he and the county chose not to charge. They thought their responsibility was to be reasonable and to be accurate in their charging decisions. And I believe they said that they didn't believe that the charges that they could make could be sustained in a trial, and therefore it was not appropriate for them to bring the charges. So we will find out more exactly, hearing it directly from Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison tomorrow at 1 o'clock. In the meantime, We want to ask you to share this program, this platform, what we're doing on the platform with your networks and with your colleagues and your friends. I will work on getting the audio. The program we were watching, not hearing, excellent program. And in my note or description of the program, I described this as governance at the neighborhood level. What do you mean, Al McFarland? It means that in our communities, our neighborhoods around the country and around the world, neighbors can and do get together to share their aspirations, their fears, their concerns, and their shared accountability, responsibility, and power. Their power. How do they galvanize their energies to project to those that they have elected and those who serve them as employees of the government that they fund through tax dollars? How do they ensure that their voices, their concerns are being heard? And I so enjoy being a part of the Hawthorne neighborhood. The Hawthorne Huddle began over 25 years ago. An organization, a neighborhood group that Diana Hawkins and others in the neighborhood put together. They were successful in getting some regional corporate and business association partners to fund these monthly meetings. It wasn't a big budget item, light refreshments, coffee and a bagel, but still just that expression of support from corporate leaders made a difference. And this meeting has sustained itself over the past 25, almost 30 years now. Kudos to Diane and her original corporate partners out of General Mills. Well, they're still meeting, still discussing. It's important that they present members, representatives of the Minneapolis Health Department every week. The health department leaders give us a clear week by week update on the presence, the spread, the impact of the COVID-19 and the variants that have come out of that. So we kind of knew as we were going on what was happening in North Minneapolis and in Hawthorne and near North Jordan neighborhoods in particular. Why is it important? Because there was a sense that a lot of Black people were being not targeted, but being impacted by the spread of the virus, and that due in part to both skepticism of Black people about the virility, the impact, the reality of the virus, skepticism and distrust of the health system, which has presided over what are presented as almost intractable disparities in health for our community, and distrust or skepticism about the vaccine as the vaccine strategies were brought online. And Hawthorne Huddle, by having members of the Minneapolis Health Department present the data month after month and directing our community where they could go find the data from Minneapolis Health Department and from the State Health Department, did the right thing in encouraging our people, our neighborhood, to both be aware and be proactive. We talked a lot about protocols, and in fact, that the huddle itself, which used to be in person for the past 2 years, has been held virtually, is a reflection of the need to ensure that we are practicing the protocols of safe distancing and safe meetings. And so, as well as talk about the COVID-19 report, the huddle always features a report from the 4th Precinct, the police department unit right down the street from where I am right now, that serves North Minneapolis, the Hawthorne neighborhood, near North neighborhood, Jordan neighborhood, and others. And the presence of the community service officers from the 4th Precinct, and when requested, when needed, the precinct commander and even the police chief and others to talk about the issues of crime, of safety, of prevention, and of maintaining a sense of connectedness between officers who patrol and serve this community and the residents and the children, the young people. How do we create a responsible relationship that shows what we are and should be to each other, that minimizes situations where our people feel we are being attacked and or killed by police with no recourse, and where police understand that even when there are failures on the part of individuals, no one in our community, from my point of view, is saying that there's not a proper role for public safety. But we've all talked about how do we make public safety more real, more available, more meaningful, more actionable, not only for public safety officers, but for neighborhoods, families, communities, individuals. Well, this organization, this Hawthorne Huddle, has that discussion every week, and we think that's a wonderful and powerful thing. Finally, we bring issues, and this program was an exciting one because presenters were talking about solar energy in the Black community, solar energy in our community. And that discussion talks about our right to be involved, our need to be involved, the benefit we can derive from national, global policy towards alternative energy, and how that development of that technology can be seated in the middle of the Black community, of our community. So for that reason, this conversation is so important. The relationship with the Hawthorne Council, so important, and the ability to share this conversation with you, so important as well. Why would you be concerned about what's happening in North Minneapolis? Well, our idea is that we make the local global. What happens in this neighborhood is happening in neighborhoods in Mogadishu. It's happening in neighborhoods in London, in Havana, happening in neighborhoods in Lima, Peru, in Uruguay, happening in neighborhoods in Miami, Chicago, in LA, neighborhoods around the planet. Our situations are similar. We work together. We try to find solutions that reduce the pain and allow us to move past things that are difficult in ways that benefit the community, the society at large, and individuals in it. And we simply need to know each other more and recognize that what we do, we are not alone in doing that, that what we do daily is happening in the lives of other human beings all over the planet. And to the degree that we recognize how similar and how close our aspirations and obligations are, we can learn from each other, do for each other, even create transactions with each other and among each other that benefit all of us, our communities, at varying levels. So I'm excited to have this technology of social media, of YouTube and Twitter and Facebook to convene people in neighborhoods here and from around the world, talking about issues that are of common concern about our humanity and the future that we believe we have an obligation to write, to create, to author. I hope you feel the same way too. I'm interested in knowing how you feel and what your sense of either hope or lack of hope is about where we are in community and in the world today. I'm Al McFarland. Reach out to me at al@insightnews.com. Drop me a note. I'll take a phone call. My phone is 612-695-0417. The most important thing is we should connect and share. We'll be back tomorrow with Keith Ellison at 1 o'clock. Be part of the conversation. We'll see you then. Take care.